Software testers. Move beyond theory and master testing with the AI-powered ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q program. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q equips you with the theoretical skills and practical competence to truly excel. Learn how to apply black box testing like a pro. Estimate accurately, write flawless defect reports, and catch issues early. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q complements your ISTQB certification by turning knowledge into powerful action. Visit our website and find out more information.
Hello everyone, my name is Atef Amlashi and I'm very happy to be your host at A4Q Testing Summit. Thank you for joining us as we bring together the global testing community for 2 days of knowledge sharing, practical insights and discussions around software testing and quality engineering. Today, alongside with the A4Q sessions, we have also a dedicated track for ISTQB, and tomorrow the summit continues with our A4Q sessions and German track sponsored by German Testing Board and our French track sponsored by CFTL. In this session, it's my pleasure to introduce Joel Oliveira. Hello, Joel.
Hi, Atef. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you for joining me. With more than 20 years of experience across software development, testing, quality assurance, and engineering leadership, Joel will present testing efficiency in the age of AI, why traditional metrics are lying to you. Interesting. In this session, he will explore how AI is changing software development and why traditional testing metrics may no longer give us the right picture of quality and efficiency in an AI-driven world. Please join me in welcoming Joel Oliveira, and do not forget to vote for Joel on his speak page on our website for his presentation. Thank you. Joel, stage is yours.
Hi, thank you. After that introduction here, I always feel a little bit old, but let's go into not to the old stuff, but to the new one. Let's jump into the AI. So as you said, my name is Joel, and I'm a tester. And for the last, I will say, years, I've been talking also about not just about software testing itself, but also the impact of AI on the way we do and we measure software testing. So today I would like to talk why are the metrics failing in this new AI area. And to be honest, to be fair, we already had issues with metrics even before AI. So it's not something that will now come with AI. However, AI will work as an amplifier, not just for the good things, but also for the bad things. So if you have a process or metrics that are not the most efficient ones, with AI, you will have more and faster. So that's the advantage and disadvantage of AI. So moving to AI, and if I ask, probably if you are using AI for software development, for software testing, I will dare to say that most of you are doing that. If it was a face-to-face conference, I will say that probably more than 80% will raise your hand and saying, yes, we are already using AI, and especially Gen AI, for software development and for software testing. But my second question will be, are you still measuring testing like you did before? And I dare to say that most probably the same persons will still raise their hand, for more than 80% saying, yes, we are still measuring testing like we did before. So AI changed something, but we are still using the old process, the old metrics. So AI actually changed a lot. It changed. It is still changing the way we build software. It's not the end of the path yet. It's not the end of the process. So right now, today, AI generates code in seconds, a huge amount of code. And this also allows us to increase the delivery speed dramatically, um, like we never saw before. We are still adapting to these changes, and we are getting new changes. It's faster than what we can adapt, and it's not one time change. It's a continuous stream of changes. So the code can be easily changed and continually changed over time. At the same time, yes, test generation also became more trivial, I would say, more easy to do. We can, the same way that we can generate code, we can also generate tests. However, the testing metrics that we use, they stay the same. And that's the main problem, because before we already had issues, and now we still propagate the same issues, but as I explained before, with AI, they are augmented. Well, we still look for the tests that we executed, so the number of tests. We still look for the coverage percentage, the number of defects that we found, and we still love the green pipelines, right? Everyone likes to see the green pipelines, showing that everything is green, that all the tests passed. If some tests are red, we know what we need to do. We just disable them, and then everything becomes green again. So we love the green pipelines. This means that the code itself is actually becoming quite cheap. It's cheap to produce code. We have this vibe coding, all the AI assisted development with all the skills. We just provide them a markup file with what we need, what is the scope, and the agents will do all the code, moving from the fresh prototyping, sometimes not just prototyping, but moving to fast prototyping and then even faster production live, with a huge and massive code generation. So that's what we have today. So yes, we can now generate more software, but it's actually more than what we can meaningfully validate. So we cannot validate all of this software that is being produced right now. So we have a huge deficit between the software that is being produced and what we can actually validate. So even if before we already had that last step where we had to validate all the software, or even if it was a smaller chunks like in sprints, we always had a huge amount of software to validate in a very short time. Now this becomes larger, so it becomes a bigger issue to resolve. Why? Because testing did not scale at the same rate. So the code generation, the pipelines, the release frequency, the test creation, all of that evolved, and it's now at a higher rate. But test creation and the validation that we need to do, that's two different things. So it didn't, even if we are able to generate the tests, we are not able to compete with the speed that all the remaining steps are bringing to the game. So it didn't scale at the same rate. The way we understand, or the understanding that we need to have about the scope, about the business, the judgment that we are requiring to or bringing to these steps, even the business awareness. Yes, we can use AI to help us to understand a little bit more the business, but to have a full awareness of the business, to understand what are the critical flows, the critical journeys, this does not scale in the same way that we can scale the software development. Critical thinking, that's not something that is easy to scale because we need humans in the loop. It's not something that we can just replace with AI. So yes, AI scales the output. It gets the output faster than the humans are able to scale the understanding. We are not able to scale our understanding at the same pace that AI is scaling, and AI is still scaling. It's still growing. Right now, the speed is already amazing, but what we can expect in the near future. We are not talking in the long-term future. In the near future, we can expect that AI becomes faster and also better on these kind of tasks. So code is becoming quite cheap, but at the same time, the confidence is becoming quite expensive. So the confidence that we are bringing, that we are able to bring, because the size of the code and the changes in the code are becoming more frequent. That means also that this confidence and the effort that we need to achieve the same level of confidence is growing. So we have this a huge cost right now in this cycle. So the bottleneck moved from the production of the software to the actual understanding and confidence of what the software is doing. So that's where the bottleneck is currently in our pipelines. So we actually optimized all the activities from reviewing the requirements, from optimizing the requirements, from creating the ideas, creating the prototypes, creating the source code, and then moving to the test ideas, to the test scripts. We optimized all those activities, but we didn't optimize the outcomes. So we are still looking for the tests executed. We are still looking for the automation coverage. We are still looking for the pipelines that needs to be green. We are still counting the number of defects. And all of these we were able to improve. So we were able to improve the metrics. The numbers look good. But does it mean that our confidence also improved? Or we just improved the metrics? Well, this is called the illusion of control, right? It's quite common to see teams saying, oh, we have thousands of tests executed. We have green dashboards all over the place. However, we still have production issues. We still have production incidents. We still have calls in the middle of the night because something is crashing in production. So how come is this possible? We are in control. We have all the tests executed. We have thousands of tests. We have more tests than what we can control. And we have all these very nice green dashboards showing that everything passed. But we are still finding issues in production. So this is what I called the vanity metrics, right? And AI makes it really easy to produce these vanity metrics where we feel like we are in control, but actually we are not. We have so much noise that we are no longer in control. We have AI-generated tests. We have these generated assertions. We have the inflation of the coverage because it's quite easy now to generate more and more tests that will increase our coverage. And AI can actually automate all these activities, all these metrics, all this noise. So it's noise at scale. Everything that is being produced just increase the number and the level of noise that we need to deal with. We are not talking about value. We are talking about noise, and we are capturing that noise with our vanity metrics. And everything looks good. But smarter people than me, like Charles said, that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. That's one of the challenges that we have. Right now, with our metrics, if they were not good before, now they are even worse. So you can ask, okay, I understand why. So, but what about testing efficiency? What actually means today in our days with AI? Well, efficiency, does it mean speed? This was what we got used to, right? More tests, more automation, faster execution. Everyone was asking for speed. We need to be faster, deliver more and at faster pace. That was what the market was asking for. And when we ask for something, when you reward something, usually you get it. So we ask for speed, and guess what? We got speed. So we got vibe testing, and vibe testing is all about speed, right? We can generate thousands of tests. We can generate thousands of assertions that, by the way, no one reviews. We have these pipelines that no one believes on them, and when they fail, they say, "Well, it's normal," and when it should not be normal. But they say, "Yeah, they fail frequently." And again, frequently is normal. It's not the same thing. But we tend to see this frequently failure as something that is normal because the pipelines were generated. That should not be the case because then we lose the trust on these pipelines. And we also have a huge amount of automation without any intent, without any purpose. We see, and it's quite frequent to face this with, in the different conferences all over the world. It's frequent to see automation testers say, "Oh, we did this automation. Why?" I said, "Because we can. It's free." No, it's not free, and we should not automate just because we can. We should automate because there is a purpose. There is added value that we are bringing with automation. Unfortunately, with AI and with vibe testing, we are seeing this explosion of automated tests, even more than what we saw before. But that is that speed being translated into value? Well, actually, testing is speed, but the trust generated on these tests are close to zero because we don't understand their value. Actually, they are built without the purpose of the value. They are built because, again, we can and it's free, or we believe that it's free. I have a different opinion on this. It's not free at all. I was sharing also some story with some of our colleagues that were already using Gen AI to generate all of their tests. And when I asked if it was cheaper, the answer was straight up. They said, "No, it's not cheaper. When you calculate everything, it's not cheaper." Yes, in the first instance, it's faster, but faster and cheaper or better are different things. So at this moment, we have fast feedback, but this fast feedback is useless if the feedback that we are getting is wrong or if it's without any value. So we are focused still on the quantity, believing that it means assurance. We are still looking for speed, believing that it means quality. We are looking for automation, believing that we are getting value. And we look for more tests as if it will give us more confidence. None of this is a direct relation. Automation can be value, but it can also be more maintenance costs, a huge amount of cost, a huge amount of waste without any value at all. More tests, it can be more coverage, but it does not mean that in the end of the day we have more confidence. So we need always to balance and to understand what we are looking for. Are we looking for speed? Are we looking for the activities? Or are we looking for the outcomes? So efficiency is actually when we are able to maximize the confidence, but minimizing the waste, all the activities that we do without bringing value to the process. Efficiency is moving from noise, is moving from activities to signal as value. So we are talking about having this actionable feedback. So feedback that we can actually do something with it. We are talking about early risk detection. They'll say, "Well, nothing new," and it's true, nothing new. We are talking about shifting left, right? We are talking about trying to detect the defects earlier, trying to mitigate the risk earlier. But at the same time, we are also looking to the right. When something fails, we want to understand what is the meaning of that fail, not just for the testing, not just for the software, but even more important, what is the business impact? What is the visibility of this failure in the business? That's where the value is. So that's a mindset that we also need to change. So we need to change our mindset from talking about activities to talk about value. This it looks like a simple mindset, but it's not, because we were always used to talk about activities, what we will be doing today. Oh, I will be executing this test, or I will be defining this test case. We are not talking about the value that we are bringing with the activities. We are still focused on activities. Right? If we are reducing the activities, if we are slowing down the activities, that will be always seen as a negative point. The focus is not on the value that we are bringing, but on the activities that we are doing. Right? We all remember these situations where you have a dashboard with the number of test cases executed by day or by the team or by person that is even worse, right? Without taking in consideration the actual value that that test is bringing. So is it better to have 10 tests executed without any value, or one single test executed with high value to the business? The test that is validating that critical journey for the business. Again, it's a mindset that we need to shift from activity to value. Not It's not about how much we test, it's the value that we are protecting with our tests. It's not about the movement, it's not about activity, it's about the outcomes. And not just the outcomes, but the right outcomes. We need to understand what we are looking for and what brings value to the business. Yes, when we are doing activities, like for example, when we are executing tests, we have an outcome, we have a test report. We can have some defects that are being reported. But that, again, that's the activity. It's not the value that we are bringing to the project and the value that we are bringing to the team, the value that we are bringing to the business. That should be our focus. Not how many tests we executed, not how many defects we reported, but the value that we protected, the things that we anticipated, the risk that we mitigated, because if we didn't find that defects earlier, they will have an impact in the business, in production. So this is the what, but how? So how are we able to measure this testing efficiency in a different way? Different than what we have been doing until now, especially because, as I said, with AI, the world is changing, the way we develop software is also changing. So we need to move our focus from to the outcomes, not to the movement, not to the activities. We need to start raising a different type of questions, and we need to look for the metrics that will respond to those questions. So questions like what was the risk reduced, or was the risk reduced? What are we still leaving? What is still escaping to production? And of course, how can we improve our process to make sure that on the next iteration we don't leave these defects to escape again? What changed because of testing? It's not what we are doing as part of the testing, it's what really changed. Did we reduce the risk? Did we increase the business income? Did we increase the customer satisfaction? What was our impact? And we have a larger impact than what we believe. We are not just gatekeepers, we can be much more than that. So, another question is, what did we learn earlier? Again, trying to learn earlier, moving the shift left. It's again quite important. But not just moving to the unit tests. That's sometimes what we understand by shift left. But trying to anticipate risks, try to learn earlier. Because if we don't learn earlier, we know what will happen. We will learn later when it goes to production. And then we understand, oh, we missed this. Now we know, now we learn. But usually with a huge invoice, so the cost is much, much higher. So we need to work on the metrics that will help us to answer to these questions. Metrics that will help us to increase the confidence. So to understand how our testing is actually predicting and anticipating the real production behavior. Using metrics like the defect escape rate, MTTR, and for example, the reopen rate, but also looking for different metrics like the risk exposure trend to understand if cycle after cycle, release after release, we are reducing our exposure to the risk. Are we getting better? Are we mitigating the risk earlier, or are we still leaving that risk to be mitigated or to be um, actionable in production? Other metrics that we fail to look for, it's what we cannot see. So we tend to look for the defects that we are finding in production, but we fail to understand the value of the defects that we are not seeing in production because we are finding them earlier. So to be able to correlate the production incidents or the lack of production incidents also with our activities in software testing, if we are investing more effort, more time testing a specific component, and then we are able to see that that specific component is increasing our confidence when it goes to production because we are seeing less and less defects. We tend to look always for the number of defects, not for the defects that we are not seeing. So all these metrics will help us to increase the confidence that we are doing it better and better cycle after cycle, that we are able to respond with, for example, with the MTTR. We are improving our response time, but we are also improving our quality of the response with the reopen rate. So if we respond fast and the reopen rate is low, it means that we are improving not just our capacity to resolve, but also the quality of the resolution. So that's one point of view for the confidence metrics. But we also have feedback quality metrics. How fast, how reliable is our testing? And if the feedback that we are getting is actually something that we can act on it. We tend to look for the test execution, especially when we are talking about automated tests. How can we optimize the test execution? How fast can we have the test executed? Again, test execution is the activity. What we want to measure, it's not how fast we can execute, it's how fast can we actually execute and get a meaningful feedback out of that execution. Just the execution itself, it's an activity, it's noise, it's not the signal, it's not the value. We also need to look for false positive rates, especially with AI. That's quite frequent, so we need to reduce the false positives to make sure that our tests are reliable, that are finding real defects, not just running a huge amount of tests without finding these positive defects, and making sure that they're reliable. The flaky tests that we had before now can be even worse, so we need to make sure that we keep this also in control. And when they fail, we need to be able to raise an action. We need to be able to act on it, not just ignore the failure and try to run again and say, oh, yeah, it's a flaky test, so it will always fail. So those are also one set of metrics. But we also need to look for the business. And again, this was already the case before, but most of the testing teams, they fail to do this. They fail to look for the outcomes of the QA to the customers and to the financials of the business. We tend to see ourselves as the gatekeepers, as the showstoppers, without understanding that we can and we should look a little bit further to the customers and to the financials of the business. So we need to understand the number of incidents that are actually impacting the customer. What are the critical journeys that should not fail? We need to understand what is the impact on the revenue, on the defects that we are leaving to escape, but also on the defects that we are preventing. Looking to what is happening in production, looking to the business outcomes, looking to the business journeys that are failing, actually helps us to improve and to close the feedback loop, to improve what we are doing in software testing, to understand what is the cost when we need to recover from a failure. That cost is something that can be and should be invested to prevent the failure to happen again in production. But we are talking about AI, so we also need to have some AI-aware metrics. How AI is effective? And we are used to calculate the ROI, return of investment on software testing. And That's quite easy, right? We know how many hours we spend, we know what cost per hour, so it's really easy to calculate. But now with AI, we need to look to other dimensions. We need to look, for example, to the token consumption, because that will be a huge part on the costs that will need to be taken in consideration, but also the human correction overhead. So the time that we need to spend to correct what was wrongly generated with AI, or at least to review what was generated. We need to understand what are the usefulness of the tests that are being generated. If AI is able to generate 100 tests, does it mean that all the 100 tests are actually useful? Probably not. We need to have a human looking to these rated tests and to understand what are the ones that are doing anything useful, what are the ones that are bringing value, and the ones that are just slowing down our process, slowing down our pipeline. And when we have all of this, we can actually calculate the cost for each output, for each meaningful output that we are producing, for each test case, for each test execution. We need to have all these dimensions. So you already know the why, the what, but how? So what next? What what can you do on Monday? After this. Well, the first thing, you can stop measuring volume. Look to your reports. Look to the metrics that will give you volume, that will measure the speed, not quality, like the number of tests executed, like the coverage that you are getting, and see how you can improve them to move from the noise to the signal, to move from the activities to the outcome, to the impact. Start rewarding the confidence. Look for metrics that help you to increase the confidence and reward this confidence in the end of the game, in production, for the business. What are the journeys that you cannot miss? And invest on those high signal tests, the tests that cover the risky areas of your solution. As I said before, even with or without AI, this was already a fact. This was already a best practice missed by a lot of teams. With AI, it becomes even worse. So we need to evolve behind this execution. We need to evolve behind the gatekeepers. We need to evolve behind being the showstoppers. We need to be the ones that are bringing additional information, that we are partnering with the business for enabling them to take better decisions. So, as a final note, I would like to say that this is really an exciting time to be a tester. Not just the future, the present is already exciting. The future looks even more exciting. And the future will belong to all of those teams that will be able to understand the signal and distinguish from the signal from the noise, from the activities or from the value added, and the speed or the activities without any value added. So, having said that, thanks. Thank you for listening to me. Don't forget to push the like, and I think we still have some time for questions.
Thank you very much, Joel. It was very interesting to see how AI is changing traditional way of thinking and measuring the right things matters more than. And we can see, yes, the right things matters more than ever. Now we would like to open the floor for questions. So please feel free to share your question in the comments. I can see that we already have some questions, but you already answered those questions.
No, even better then.
Yes, and then I'm just checking out. How do we actually track these new AI metrics without adding the bunch of extra work for the team?
Okay. Well, it's a good point. And even before using AI, metrics should be already automated collected, okay, for different reasons. The first one is independence. So metrics should be independent from the person that is actually collecting them. So that's why it's relevant that it's important to have an automatic process. By the other side, if we are collecting the metrics manually, they are also requiring some additional effort, some additional waste of time that can impact the metrics themselves. So these collections should be automatic. And how can we do it in this new AI era? Very simple. For example, we have all these tests that are generated with AI. We can create the tests, automatic generated tests created directly in Git if we are using these more, let's say, code-based tests, or we can even use a test management tool like Zephyr, like X-Ray and Jira, and that will be our baseline. After that, we will have human in the loop, the human that will review the tests and will understand what are the tests that are bringing value and the tests that are not adding any value to it. The result, so the difference between the generated tests and the tests that we approved, that the human in the loop approved, that will already give us interesting metric on the efficiency of the AI. All of this can be done automatically. Of course, not review, that still needs to be done by the human in the loop. But to calculate this difference in the metrics, that can be done automatically. This is just one example. But we have other examples for the other metrics. We just need to be creative and understand how we can do it automatically.
Thank you. And the next question, how do we convince manager to stop looking at traditional metrics like
Okay.
coverage percentage?
Yeah, I know that our managers, they love the green dashboards, they love the coverage. I don't know any manager that didn't ask for coverage and green reports. So that's something that they understand. But we as a testers, we also need to educate our stakeholders. It's not just doing what they ask for, we also need to educate them. The first step here, and again, with or without AI, it's to explain the added value, what we are earning with the coverage and what we are adding with other metrics. For example, looking to the escape defects. What is the impact? What is the actual impact in the business? What are the real impacts for the customers? Yes, we can have coverage. Does it mean quality? Does it mean better customer satisfaction? No. So we need to measure what really matters to the business. This it's part of this education of the stakeholders. We need to be the first ones protecting the activities of software testing. We need to be able to explain and sell software testing, not just to our customers, but also to the internal customers, to the internal stakeholders like the management team. That will be my advice.
Thank you, Joel. And do we have more questions? Yeah. With AI generating so many tests, how do we filter out the noise and find the tests that actually matter?
Okay. Um, well, again, we already know the answer as a testers. With AI, we need to have a mindset shift. So we need to move from the ones that are executing to the ones that are reviewing and approving the test case. That's something that we need to do with AI because we have a huge amount of artifacts that can be produced very easily, very fast. But we know how to handle this high volume. We already handled that before. We know that exhaustive testing is impossible. So we need to prioritize. We need to use techniques like, for example, risk-based testing to understand what is really critical for the business. Again, it's not for the tests. It's not for the quantity. It's not for the coverage. It's for the business. What is the added value for each test to the business? What are the risks that we are mitigating? That's where our focus should be, with or without AI, but even more relevant with AI because of the amount of tests that we now need, that we have now to in our backlogs, the amount of tests that we need to deal with. Okay.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you very much. A quick reminder, if you join Joel's presentation, don't forget to vote for him by scanning the QR code or going to the talk page, his presentation page at our website. Also, if you missed any session or would like to watch this presentation again, recording is available on our website and our YouTube channel. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Joel, again.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of A4Q testing summit.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Software testers. Move beyond theory and master testing with the AI-powered ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q program. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q equips you with the theoretical skills and practical competence to truly excel. Learn how to apply black box testing like a pro. Estimate accurately, write flawless defect reports, and catch issues early. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q complements your ISTQB certification by turning knowledge into powerful action. Visit our website and find out more information.